Good evening from where you are. Welcome once again to this mental health talk. Today I'm going to be talking about melancholics. I'm going to be talking about melancholics. So if you're new to this channel, kindly subscribe, hit the subscribe button so that you can get future notification about our mental health talks. This I'm doing for free and it is for your own edification. Those of you who are struggling in relationships, those who are looking at getting into relationships, those of you who want one day to pass this information to your children, I believe this is so important for you. So this is something that you're gonna be, passing on to your generation. And if you're here, kindly give me a thumbs up. Let me know if I'm audible enough. Yes, Agfalo Bless, thank you so much. Hi, how are you? Let me also know where you're watching me from. As usual, guys, I like to make this, short and sweet, just 1 hour, just 1 hour. And today we are looking at the last temperament that we have, and that is the melancholic. We are looking at melancholic. Thank you so much, Agafalo, for the thumbs up. We have talked about cholerics. We've gone and talked about flags. Ian, I can see you. Thank you. Welcome. I can see you're watching from Kiambu. Is it cold? I'm literally freezing. Zara Karibu Sana, thank you so much. Mindspa team, thank you for joining in. Diana Sugar, I have to acknowledge each one of you, because what I always say is that the best thing you can ever do to yourself is invest in your mental health. Vata Mutuko, thank you so much for joining in from Naivasha. Please, I'm going to send you something warm. I know how Naivasha is. Karibu Sana, Cynthia Sanja, thank you so much. Guys, feel free to just give me a thumbs up, say hello, let me know where you're watching me from. All I'm about is, your mental health. Sometimes we are really pursuing materialistic things. Esther, I can see you. Thank you for watching from Dubai. And we end up investing in land, buying nice cars and all that. This is good, guys. But what is all these things if you're not stable mentally? Can you imagine? People buy cars and go and crash them literally because they're suffering from depression. Violet Moyonga, thank you for joining in, my sister. I can see you. So what what I do every Sunday whenever I'm available, Apondi Karibu Sana, what I do is I try as much as I can to give this for free so that you can pass this to your own generation to come. All right. So today we are going to be looking at the last, the last temperament, and then we move on to the other pillars that help stabilize any relationship. Guys, let me say this as I begin. Every relationship has a high rate of surviving. Every relationship can work. It just depends on how well you know your other person. It depends on the kind of knowledge that you have. Ruth, I can see you. Hi. It depends on how committed you are to this relationship. I believe with all my heart. I have been through the ups and downs. I will never lie. I'm a very open book. I can tell you, I have been through the ups and downs of life. I've literally, Mangu Karibu Sana from Makueni. I have literally, had to work my way. And one of the things that really helped me is getting the right knowledge, getting the right mentors, going for therapy. That one, I will put it in caps. Now, if you're a man here, and I don't want to be gender biased, but I know men don't like walking into therapeutic room. I would just want to encourage you, for the sanity of your relationship, for the sanity of your family, please learn to sit down with a therapist. It will help you. It will save you the stress. Only if you can put your pride down, because I know, in our African culture, we say, oh my God, I look like I'm not managing my marriage well. I look that, like I'm not able to handle my family well. That's the kind of perception. Hi, Gladys. That's the kind of perception that we have. But at the end of the day, look at what you gain when you sit down with a professional. Every other person has the high chance of gossiping about you. They may pass this information to someone else, but we as therapists, we as counselors are under oath. We don't share information, and if we have to share, we must do it within, a framework of privacy. So I'll not mention your name, but I can use your situation to help others grow. So as we start, if you're listening to me and you're in a hole, basically things are tough. You're not talking to one another. You know how things are. Maybe you've moved to a different room. Maybe you have even packed your things and left. Listen to me. Go and sit down. Look for a therapist near you. Go sit down. Talk. Your mental health is your wealth. And now back to our topic today. As I said, this is the last temperament we're handling. If you're new to this channel, please go back and check the other ones that we have talked about. Refresh yourself, see yourself. And if you need the personality test, please reach out. Mindspa TV, I'd like you to ask the team to please put my number up. Purity, I can see you. Karibu sana. Please put our number up so that anyone out there, whether in Kenya or abroad, can be able to reach out at any one time. Sometimes I take long to reply because I'm in and out of sessions, but definitely, even if I reply after 3 days, I will definitely reply. So karibuni sana. We are talking about these people called the melancholics. And for those of you who are very, very learned, already the word melancholic has to do with moods. Wanjiko, karibu sana. I can see you're watching from Kuala Lumpur. Karibu sana. So these melancholics, we want to analyze them the way I have done the other temperaments. And the first thing we want to look at is the body fluid. Now, I'll take you back a little bit and try and kind of like, break this down and why I bring in body organs, why I bring in fluids, why I bring color, why I bring symbols, and why I bring seasons. So that you can be able to know that there's a way, and through energy, we are connected to life, to nature, to our bodies. Some of the times you find that you're so stressed that you begin having ulcers. What does that tell you? There's an organ in your body that is overloaded with stress. So whether we like it or not, whether we acknowledge it or not, we have a connection not only to our bodies, minds, spirit, but also nature and the seasons that make nature. So when we talk about melancholics, we are talking about black bile. Oh my goodness, can you hear this? Black bile. And this black bile is produced by the spleen. Now, guys, what I want to tell you is that this bile is the one that actually causes depression. Can you imagine? Depression and mood disorder. So what we are talking about is that people who are melancholic have high chances of being in and out of moods. Do you have this partner who is always moody? One day they wake up, they are so jovial, they are, all over you, they're giving you all the love you need. And then the next day they're like a devil with 7 horns. You even wonder what happened, what you did to them. Like you don't even know. Like you're trying to even analyze yourself. Like what did I do to make this person behave the way they're behaving? But you actually cannot put a finger on it. Now I want to say this. We need, and for the people who are suffering from low self-esteem, can we stop blaming ourselves for people's lives? Can we stop blaming ourselves for the behavior of our partners, especially if you know that you have nothing to do with it? Honestly, I see a high number of people just blaming themselves for things that they do not do. You come in and you're talking to me and you're telling me, my God, my husband does this, my wife does this. I just feel that I'm not enough for them. I don't, you're literally breaking down. You're going into depression because someone else is behaving in a manner that makes you uncomfortable. Now, instead of seeing the bigger picture and acknowledging that this person might be dysfunctional, we end up altering who we are, how we are wired, so that we can meet the demands on the manipulations of these other people. Taking, for example, people who are narcissistic, they are very manipulative, extremely manipulative. Basically, they trade something for something. They will give you something to get something out of you. And if you go out of their expectations, they punish you. They literally punish you. They make your life, your emotional wellness, very uncomfortable, such that you cannot have peace. Now, it's one thing to be in a relationship with someone who is narcissistic. It's another thing to acknowledge that they have a problem. They are sick. It's a condition. It's a disorder. A lot of us have even gone into serious chronic depression because of our partners. And the only difference between someone who handles their relationship well and someone who doesn't is knowledge. And this is what I'm offering, guys. Please, if you can and you know someone who stands to gain from this, please share this content so that we can build a better tomorrow. Tell you what, we are in such sensitive times that if you see what is happening with our children, they are more manipulative than ever. I mean, I have refused my daughter, to have her phone. She's all over. She's moody. Now I'm even wondering, is she melancholic? She's moody, like she's not happy because she's not getting this, So sometimes as parents, we also fall victims of our children's what? Personalities, our children's temperament, and we end up suffering. So I want you to know that when you come into a therapeutic room and you do self-assessment, and you're able to also, with this knowledge that we are giving, to pick out the temperament of your partner, it makes you a little bit at peace, because now you're able to know this is their strength, this is their weakness. And when they are, hi Sue, welcome. And when they are behaving the way they are, hi Jackie, I can see you. When they're behaving the way they are behaving, you're able to kind of like, strike a balance. You're able to put boundaries so that you don't end up getting carried away, getting into what I call serious chronic depression. All right. So we already know that people who are melancholic, can you imagine the color black and then my God, terrible, extremely moody people. In fact, as psychologists, we say they suffer from mood disorder. All right. Beatrice, karibu sana. I can see you're watching from Langata. Today, by the way, guys, if you're here, you're watching, please just give me a thumbs up. Let me know where you're watching. I'm going to acknowledge you today. All right, so we move on from the body fluid, and we are now talking about the body organ. As I said, we have a connection with our body, our character, our traits. We have a connection with our bodies. Now, when we talk about the body organ of melancholics, we talk about the gallbladder. And funny enough, the gallbladder is the one that is situated just below the liver, and it stores bile. Now, I want to say this. If you have an alcoholic husband, if you have an alcoholic wife, okay? People who suffer from addiction of alcohol. Of course, we know alcohol is the one a substance that acts directly on the liver. Actually, people who go into extremities, because this is my niche, people who go into extremities when it comes to alcohol suffer from lack of, the liver literally eats itself up. Okay, so you find that sometimes when people are going through addiction, because this is what actually helps to store the bile, they have a lot of moods. Hi Marcella, I can see you're watching from South Africa. Karibu. Nancy, karibu from Kitengela. So these people who are addicted end up doing what? They're moody, especially when they don't have what they want. Jess Mothio, thank you for watching from Makueni. Karibu sana. So guys, what I want to tell you today is that we have to understand also, and I'm going to be talking about addiction later on, the chain of addiction. Okay, sometimes we have members who are drinking terribly, doing drugs terribly, and us, we are the ones who are going into depression without understanding why they are behaving the way they are behaving, why they steal things to go and sell so that they can get a fix. Karibu Jen, I can see you're in Ruiru. Okay, so it's so important that we understand that this spleen is very, very important. Diana, karibu sana from Kitengela. Welcome. Now, let's move on. I hope I'm making things clear. Sylvia, karibu watching from Namibia. Welcome so much. So we've talked about the body fluid. We've talked about the organ. Now, let's move to the color. Wamboi, karibu from Ruiru. Let's go into the color. The color for melancholics is green. Can you imagine? Nature. Now I'm even wondering, where is the connection? I mean, spleen and, black bile. Anyway, that is what our psychological fathers say, that people who are melancholics, they are more predisposed and they love the green color. My God, I'm not melancholic because I can see I have green on my background. Leila Karibu watching from Malindi. Yes, I have green and I love green. So, but I'm not a melancholic. In fact, when I check out all these temperaments, I feel that I have a little bit of everything. I have melancholic, I have sanguine, I have, Charity Karibu from Syokimau. So I don't know. I think there are people who have more than 3 temperaments, all right? So they love green. And if they love green, their symbol automatically is earth. That is their symbol. And when we talk about their what do you call what am I talking about, the weather, as in the season they are in, no, the symbol is earth, and then their season is autumn. Yes, my God, yes, pronunciation, English came by sheep, we always say that. Now let us go into the typical traits of melancholics. These guys, and please guys, if you have a notebook, please put this down, because you need to go back and refer. When you're talking to your friends, when you're dealing with your in-laws, when you're dealing with your spouse, when you're dealing with your workmates, you need to capture this. Because even without them telling you, you can be able to pick out who they are in terms of their temperaments and kind of like know how to go around them when you're dealing with them in those spaces that I've mentioned. Melancholics are highly organized. By God, these people, they have high standards. Basically, they're the kind of people, if they're arranging their wardrobe, those wardrobes are going to be arranged in a certain order. White shirts, black shirts, they are kind of like perfectionists, all right? So their standards are very high. When you look at their workspaces, if you check out their desks, very organized. And they don't like people coming to tamper. They're the people who will just flip because you took something and you moved it to somewhere else. They just don't like it. So melancholics are organized, okay? They love their privacy in so many ways. So if you're dealing with a melancholic spouse, they don't like your issues out there, especially the dirty linen. They don't want. If you tell them, okay, we are having issues, can we get our father, can we get our mother, can we get someone to just come and talk to, they're like, why are we taking our problems to someone else? Why can't we sort this out between me and you? And it's us guys who are, so they don't like. And if it's within even the family setup, when you talk about your siblings, when you talk about, workplaces, they're the kind of people who just don't like you going to talk about their stuff. If they confide in you, they don't expect you to go and talk about them. They really love to have their their life private, okay? And if they want their life private, it shows you that these people are not flashy. In as much as they are very organized, they love to really be conservative, yeah? They have their own standards, but they don't do it to show off. Unlike cholerics and unlike sanguines, these people show off. Cholerics are typical, they're terrible. My friend, they will want to walk into rooms. Hi, Bishop Karibu Sana, Bishop Mukala. They will walk into rooms, perfumes overloaded. My God, those guys, they walk in and you can just smell their perfume. You look at their dressing, my goodness, they know how to dress. So that perfectionism with cholerics makes them want to draw attention to themselves because they are very, very egoistic in as much as they're focused at what they do. But when it comes to melancholics, they're not flashy at all. Okay, love their privacy, but very organized. But this is the thing. Remember, we talked about moods. They're very, very sensitive. Hi, Ruth, I can see you. They're very, very sensitive. These are the people who will just flip for something that is very, very trivial. And most of the time you're wondering, okay, what did I do that, that is making you, behave the way you're behaving? It becomes very, very hard to understand these people. Like they have high level sensitivity. And of course, if you can connect this trait to the fact that we know already they have moods, so it's very easy for them to flip. You do something, kidogo, and they're like, they're out, and they won't talk to you. The silent treatment checks in, and you start now wondering, you go on a guilt trip. So that sensitivity is something that you need to take care of whenever you're dealing with a spouse or a friend who's a melancholic. Even as you approach them, please be sensitive. They look out for words. They check your behavior. So if you're not kind of like, behaving the way they would expect you to be, they automatically, kind of like, label you as that uncaring friend. All right. Now, this is the thing about melancholics. In as much as they're perfectionists, they're also high risk takers, like cholerics. When you talk about cholerics, they have high focus and they take risks. So long as you're telling them, oh, you'll make money when it comes to investment, this is what you're going to gain as a return, they are so quick to delve in, like they won't think twice. And so are these melancholics, very big risk takers. But you see, it also comes in because of the mood fluctuations. Okay, so you can find, let me tell you, and I said this last time, con men will always kind of like work with your mood. So these melancholics, when they are on a high and they get a proposal about something, automatically they will go in for it. Okay, but when they are not in the good mood, in that space where they want to really engage, you will not find them very, very interested in what you have for them. Now, another trait that I really like about melancholics is that they are very real. They're very idealistic. They look at things as real, like behind I have a brown door and I have, so they're very real. When they're looking at life, when they're solving issues, in as much as, yes, they might be moody and they might be, suffering from a level of depression, these people are very real with life. Like, they're the people who will tell you, I'm not doing gray areas. It's either black or white. If you're my friend, you're in. If you're not my friend, please get out of my face. I don't have anything to waste. I don't have any time to waste on you. So I love such kind of people. I am one of those people because I don't believe in wasting time. I always say that time is precious, guys. If you're living it for tomorrow, then you're missing the point. You live life for today. You do life for today. And make sure that as you do life, you have the best people, the best support system. Otherwise, you will just be going in and out of toxic relationship. So for me, anyone who is very real, anyone who is idealistic, I love those kinds of friendships because, hi, if I can see you, because they look at things in a very realistic way. Now, when you talk about organization, it brings in their planning element. Anyone who's a melancholic, by the way, when it comes to planning, if you're thinking of doing parties, if you're thinking of organizing an office thing, let me tell you, these are the guys you need to look for. Because when it comes to planning, they are excellent. And you already can see they would make very good event coordinators. All right. So this is one of their typical traits. Like, when I'm talking about typical traits, some things may vary, but what I'm talking about first, these that I'm bringing out, are things that are there across the board. Whether it's a melancholic in which country, they're just, the way. Ras baby, I can see you, greetings, Then we have they're very pessimistic. Okay, of course, it has to do with their moods. I mean, half the time they're not thinking very, very positively. So whenever you're engaging with them, I mean, the things that they would bring across can really hurt you. Okay, and once when someone is really negative about life, of course you ideally know a relationship would not really thrive so well, because every other time you're engaging with them from a negative perspective, like whatever they're reasoning, in as much as it is real, it is coming from a negative space. Now, I want you to think of someone that may be having these typical traits. I want to give you their strengths so that you can elevate their strengths, and then you kind of like help them work on their weaknesses. Okay? I always say, even when you're dealing with your own child, there are people, we are all different. There are children who are slow in academics, but they're very good when it comes to art. You need to focus on what can be elevated and kind of push down what might be destructive or might really derail your child. Hi, Leila. Oh, I can see, yes. Moody operators, yes. Leila, melancholics are moody operators. Moody. If you have a child who's a melancholic and they're always, in and out of, even teenagers, you will realize that these people, by the way, it's not even a matter of, what is in it. It's just that they are wired that way. Now, let's look at the strength, so that if you're a parent and you're looking at, trying to work around your own child, you can be able to do this and prevent future incidences that might cost you a lot. Okay? First thing, these guys are very factual. When you're talking to melancholics, they bring out facts. My God, when I talk about facts, I am bringing myself. Celia, hi, karibu, Miss Chiriba, karibu sana. I love facts. I love working with facts. because knowledge is power. When you bring in what is there proven. Tessie Ochieno, I can see you. Karibu sana. When you bring out facts, even in a conversation, you're having an engagement. These people are good with facts. They love, like, reason to them, like why you have to do things in a certain way. And the fact is, Karo, I can see you. Karibu. And the fact is, and they say it out. So melancholics are people, and most of them, by the way, they're very well educated. So they love to use their theoretical knowledge, and they combine it with life's experiences, of course, to now bring in a conversation to kind of like, support what they're saying. So one of this can be intimidating to your partner, especially if your partner is not so intellectual. So when you're bringing in the facts, you're basically pushing down their self-esteem. In as much as it might be a strength, bumpy baby karibu sana, baby bump karibu sana, in as much it might be your strength, you need to also weigh your person. I always say, your spouse is your project. Your child is your project, not the teacher, not for the world. Sometimes we just give birth, we get married, and we leave our people for the world. When someone comes in the inside circle, your inner circle, nuclear family, they are your project. Basically, what I am saying to you is that you need to dissect this person. You need to know them. Berry Karibu, I can see you've checked in. You need to know them very, very well. Because once you know them, there is nothing that you cannot tackle when it comes to challenges. Some of us live a very relaxed life. I love God and I love prayer. But let me tell you, there's some battles you cannot fight on your knees. Only you need the faith bit of it. And I always say this, and I love God with all my heart, but I've realized the Bible also says that faith without action is dead. So you cannot go to God and say, change my partner. Will God come from heaven to come and change your partner? No, he cannot. Okay? You have to work things out. For example, if you're the kind of person who is always thinking of leaving, why are you leaving? Have you tried to help your partner? Have you tried to push them to go to therapy? Why are you leaving and you've done nothing? It's like you're seated at the edge and you're saying, oh, baby, you're going down. I don't like it. And because I don't like it and because you've stressed me, you drown. I'll be busy, doing something else. That is not right. I'm reminded of the vows that we take, and sometimes, let me tell you, when you take those vows, you're normally in love, like you're looking at your partner and you're crying. I always remember the day, I was doing my vows and I was like, oh my God. And then I remember the domains we've had, those difficult, and I was calling, the devil is here in this house, so when those difficult times check in, that's when you need to really bring in those vows. So in these difficult spaces, what I'd like to ask you is, what have you done about your relationship? If your partner is always packing, leaving, like the way I used to do it in my younger years, what are you doing about it? Are you the kind of person who would tell them, just go? In fact, that time you just cover yourself with a duvet and you don't care? Or are you the kind of person who will reach out and find out, what am I doing? What am I doing to trigger you to pack your things and want to leave me? Yet we promise to live together. Yet we promise to do life together. It should be your concern. Let me say this. Where there is ego, there is no God. That is a rule of the thumb. Where there is ego, there is no God. And pride comes before a fall. Guys, the last place to ever bring in your pride is a marriage. The last place to ever bring in pride is when it comes to family. The last place to ever bring toxicity is when it comes to family. I'm a mother. I used to be a disciplinarian, serious disciplinarian, until one day my son told me, hi, Sister Neo, Karibu, I can see you're watching from South Africa. Until one day my son told me, now this beating of yours is not working on us. You better look for something else. And I was taken aback, like, what? Okay, so now you become resistant to my beating. So sometimes we use the wrong things, the wrong treatment. I see people coming in, they want advice. I don't give advice. I want to say that. I'm not the kind of counseling psychologist who will want and tell you, okay, your boyfriend told you what? Okay, your girlfriend told you what? Oh, he left. Okay, now do this. No. When we sit down, Boniface Karibu Sana, when we sit down and we are engaging, I want to know your history. I want to know why you fell in love with this person. I want to know. There's so much that I want to know so that I can help you, give you strategies, make you be so empowered to make the right decision, not only in this situation that you are in, but even in the future. So if you're coming to look for a blanket cover kind of treatment, I don't do that. I think those are for people who are not educated. But for us who have sat down and, it's like going to the doctor. They need to do for you a test. They need to check, is it bacteria, is it a virus? That is what we literally do, and it takes time, and you have to wait. So those who come and want to have one session and run away, you're doing more injustice to yourself. Minimum sessions you need to have is 5, because by the time you're doing the 5th session, you're understanding yourself, and you're able to point at and say, but I'm not the problem here. I'm not the problem. Now I can see that my partner is a narcissist. So these guys are very factual. Okay, and to anyone who is factual, you need to consider your partner, especially if you don't share the same academic background, because it could look like you're intimidating them. It could also make them have low self-esteem because they have high regard for you, yes, but you're overpowering them with your facts, with your diction, with those words, English words, strong words, So that you need to be very, very careful. Now, melancholics work very well. Very well. If in any area they are placed, they work very well. Even when it comes to, working for themselves. If they're in businesses, they really do well and they thrive. Okay? Why? Why do melancholics work well? One of the things that psychologists have noticed is that these guys they really sacrifice a lot for others. They really give for others, and when it comes to even delivering at work, when it comes to their careers, they are the kind of people who will go out of their ways to just do extra. These are the people now who end up having family problems because the boss gave them some extra work and they just say, okay, fine, I'm going to sacrifice. So they end up coming home late and they find a partner who is almost exploding, quickly angered, and you start asking each other like, okay, so now you are extending your work hours, or where were you, So if you're a melancholic and this is your habit, please stop it. Stop it, because, sometimes we get a lot of, we really, feel good. The way when we are wired in a certain way, when we do those things that make us happy, it's like a reward hormone. So we keep on engaging in that behavior over and over again without really considering the other person who is seated across. So it's very important that you always consider your family members, and that is your spouse and your children, okay? Now, these guys are very cautious. In as much as they work well and they sacrifice, they are very cautious with what they do. As I said before, one of their key traits is that they are organized and very good at planning. I talked about facts. Facts have to do with deep thinking. Deep thinking. These guys just don't do things at you like that. No. In as much as they are planners, they sit down and they analyze. Okay, Venus was saying this. Why was she saying this? Why was she, they'll sit down and really dissect situations. So when you're having challenges with either a child or a spouse, they will sit down and they'll tell you, okay, I noticed you clicked when I was talking. Why were you clicking? So they will ask you questions, they will want to understand why you're doing things. So that deep thinking is a strength, but can also be a problematic area, a problematic trait. All right. Now, something that is very, very unique about melancholics is that they love artistic beauty. These are guys who are, they're very good with arts. And some of them also are very good with music, but mostly arts. So if you have a child who loves arts, just try and analyze them, because art is also putting your mood, your thoughts, onto paper, drawing, putting an emotion on it, So if your child is artistic, then already you can see one of the traits that might be predisposing them to being melancholics. And of course, they love following through. Now let's look at the weaknesses, because this is where the problem is. And that's why I asked, can melancholics make narcissists? Because A lot of the issues that we are having in relationship is narcissist. I see people coming in and the first thing they're telling me is that, Venus, I'm dating a narcissist. My child is a narcissist. I mean, everyone. I mean, guys, if you're to pick one or two traits of narcissist and make your partner a narcissist, then you're losing the point. It's very hard. It's very bad to label someone. In fact, I always tell people, once you label someone, you've already negated them. All right. So it's very important to first pick out. And when you're talking about narcissism, please make sure that you have at least 9 traits. And if you're new to this channel, please check out one of the videos that I did about narcissism. Of course, I will be expounding more on this based on the personality and the temperament, but you need to really understand these things very well before you can judge others, all right? Now, melancholics are perfectionists. Like basically, you can have a fight because you came to the house, you left your socks somewhere on a flower pot, and they're thinking like, what do you take me for? Like, I'm here to serve you as a servant or what? Like, you know, they don't understand. So that perfectionism is very, very important to them. And anyone who goes against this in any way, you know, trying to, you know, be destructive and all that, you know, can really hurt them. I recently saw, is it yesterday in the women's group, someone posted a video about a child who was denied a mobile phone. I don't know if you guys have seen it. And then he just destroyed things in the house, like things of value. My goodness. Now, if that house was for a melancholic, I think that person would have killed that child because they just can't do well in areas where things don't look perfect. Then, this is another thing, and I really want you to grasp this. Melancholics can be loners. They can be loners. Remember, these guys are highly moody. They quickly go in and out of depression, all right? So when they're in these spaces, they don't want to be overcrowded. They're not antisocial. You know, they don't do things for the show. They want to be somewhere in the background. And when you talk about, you know, WhatsApp groups, these are the people, by the way, who silent follow. Like, yes, they read messages, but you'll never hear them commenting, okay? And if they have to do, they will be bringing out facts, okay? Jackie, karibu sana. So it's very important that you take this trait and not use it against your partner or your child. There are people who just love to be alone. Now you with your choleric nature, you're going there, oh, hello, can I keep you company? And they just look at you like, have I even invited you? Why are you in my space? You know, those are the kind of people, if you call them like you want to visit, they'll tell you they're busy because they just don't like hanging around people. And because of this trait, they're very hard to please. Of course, it is one of the reasons also they want to be alone because they just have their very high standards and they just feel they're okay with themselves. Now, you who wants to be in their lives, you who wants to, you know, bring, you know, life, you know, you want to, you know, the sanguineness. Let me tell you, these guys just don't understand that kind of vibe. So it's always important that you learn to understand, especially if you notice that someone is not really interested in being around you. Please give them a chance to just be alone. Yeah? Even if it's your partner, just give them a chance. Stop being overcrowding, overshadowing people. Sometimes this kind of behavior we have ends up hurting yourself. You end up hurting yourself, okay? And the other person is very, very okay. And of course, the last trait is being moody. These guys, my God, can be extremely moody. Now, I want to bring in something, you know, I've just checked my notes. I didn't, you know, something that can really guide you well whenever you're dealing with melancholics. I want to bring in their basic desires. Guys, if you have a pen and paper, please put this down because it will help you a lot, you know. What is the basic desire of a melancholic? Perfectionism is their way of life. And as they perfect things, they love to relate with them. Period. That is their basic desire. Perfectionism and also relating, you know, facts. You know, something they can work with. You need to take note of that. What are the emotional needs of melancholics? I'll give you 4 S's. 4 S's. Number 1, they're very sensitive. So in that space where they are moody, please don't try to play doctor. Don't try to, you know, don't try to alter them. Let them be. They are sensitive. So all you can do is just try maybe offer a cup of tea, something they like, and leave them to take, to have their space. Number two, they love support. They love support. Why would someone who is melancholic want support? They are in and out of moodiness again. Now, can you imagine if you're a gaslighter? Go there, I'm tired of your mood. Now, this is what we tell our teenagers. You every time you're here, it's like you don't want to talk, you don't want to be told, is this your house? So we are always, trying to sort our teenagers without really offering that support that they need. Okay, so it's important that we learn that whenever we have people who are moody, people who are sensitive, we offer the right kind of support. Now, on that note, I want to say this. Most of the time, we have lost our spouses. We have lost our family members. We have lost our friends for being insensitive. And those who cannot really tolerate it, they end up abusing drugs. They end up doing other things as a way of compensating the fact that they don't feel like they are being supported. So it's so important that you realize that when you give support, you're basically setting up a base. You're giving someone shoulders that they can stand on. And support doesn't mean you're too verbal. No, you can do things silently without really verbalizing everything. Like, I'm here to support you. Like, if you don't want, let's cut this thing. I always say behavior is what really tells you the true intention of a human being. So we've talked about sensitivity, we talked about support. The other S is space. All these things, guys, have to do with moods. So I'm here, I'm moody. Please give me space. Don't try to come and, make my day feel better. Just give me space. I'll sort myself out because this is how I am wired. And the last one is silence. They love silence. They love their space. Okay, so the 4 S's. I've talked about sensitivity, I've talked about support, I've talked about space, and I've talked about silence. Let's go to the next question. What controls melancholics? Melancholics are automatically controlled by moods, period. Moods. So if you have a partner who is melancholic, they're always dwelling in and out of what? Moods. Okay, so quickly, because of time, as I said, nowadays I want to try and do this, below 1 hour. I'll bring out traits or character, or can I say behavior of melancholics who are in different spaces, as a parent, as a friend, as a leader. Now, as a leader, if you want to know someone in your office who's a male, look at how they relate whenever you're having your meetings. These guys love to bring in facts. They will bring in the figures. They will bring in their research and intermarry all these things with statistics so that they answer questions. And somehow they always feel like they are compelled to answer questions. So when they are in those office spaces, these are guys who brings, they are all factual. Yes, they will do their research and they will answer according to that. Okay? Anything away from that, they will not take in. All right? Now, as parents, they have very high standards. Now, these are the kind of parents who easily get angry and can beat a child for not meeting their expectations. Those high standards are not very good, especially when you're dealing with people who are growing. When I'm talking about children, they're in and out of imperfections. They're in and out of trying things, So when you bring in your high standards without understanding that they are on a growth curve, you end up now destroying this child's sense of self-esteem because you're too perfect. You're looking at things with some, very high standards, and this person is not able to kind of like do things the right way. Okay, now they have very good trait. They sacrifice a lot for children. They are very compassionate people. So when it comes to the issue for anything that has to do with their family, their child, they will sacrifice a lot. And of course, they encourage talent. All right, because they're artistic. They're not the kind of people who will go and force a child to be very to perform very well in their education. But when it comes to talent, they will show up and they will really support that child. Now, as friends, they are very cautious. Remember, we talked about privacy. These guys are very, very cautious. They like their privacy. So even as they're making friends, they're really analyzing you very, very well. And when they see that you're very, you're loud, you're all over. You can't just keep your stuff to yourself. You're always telling people about your life. They kind of like move away. They take a step back, and you find them not giving you a reason, but it's just that they are very cautious. Even when it comes to engaging in a relationship setup, they really take, they're very careful, especially if they know they're dealing with an emotional partner. So they will withhold some information because they just don't know how well you react with their facts. Okay, so they are very, very, very cautious. Now, they also, as I said, avoid causing attention. These are guys, they will help you and they'll tell you, please don't mention my name anywhere, because they just don't want to be, they like their privacy. So when you put them on a pedestal and you're calling out them, you're calling out their names, my God, you lose them, because that is not what they like. But talk about a choleric, who wants their name out there? The cholerics love titles, they love, so they'll be out there very, very willing to accept those titles. Now, melancholics are, in as much as they are moody, they're very faithful, they're very devoted. Okay, they're very faithful and devoted. So if this is your spouse, if this is your child, rest assured that they're going to be there for you, okay, when you need them. Despite their moods, despite their perfectionism, they're very committed to relationships. And then they listen to, they're very patient, as in they listen to complaints, by the way. If they're friends, oh my God, they will listen to you, they will listen, and they will try as much as they can out of compassion to help you through a certain situation. And they go out of their way to try and also help you, solve those problems. Like, they'll give you ideas. Whatever they have that can make your life better, they will do it without thinking twice. Why? Because they have deep concern for people. That is how they are wired. And most of the time, where males are and where they're suffering, they will be moved by compassion. So males are not people who like seeing others suffering. And that is where manipulation comes in from spouses. You just drop a tear or two, and your melancholic partner will not want to see those tears. So they'll be very compassionate. They'll be moved by your compassion. And that becomes that place where you can start solving the situation. In as much as, yes, they do like solving situations in privacy, they will come out and help you. All right. And when it comes to dating, okay, they will look for the ideal mate. These guys tick boxes. Yeah, they're the kind of people who, when you're having conversations with them, they'll tell you, I don't think I have met the right person. That's why I'm single. Why? They're always looking out for ideal mates. And this is because they're so factual. They do their research. They want to know, they don't want to waste time, So when they are hitting and, hitting hard, kind of like, wooing someone, they make sure that they have done their research very well and they know this is the ideal person. So that's it and done, guys. Today, I want to conclude this session on melancholics. And of course, the question comes in. Do melancholics make narcissistic personalities? The answer is absolutely no. Why? If I look at, if on a scale of 1 to 10, their traits are not up to even half of what narcissistic people do. Okay? The only issue with melancholics is the moods, the perfection. Those are things that, come out. But when it comes to, narcissism, and I'd still ask you to go back and check the video that I have done about narcissistic tendencies, you will see narcissists are gaslighters. My God. You're solving an issue in the house. They have already gone to the streets with a megaphone, with a microphone. They're announcing to the whole world, come and see my spouse. They have done this and this. I am hurting and I am dying. In fact, I want to die by suicide. Narcissists are gaslighters. Basically, they're the ones who trigger you, and then they go out there and make you look like you're the one who is bad. Okay? So when you look at those traits for narcissism and, melancholics, honestly, I can say that any melancholic partner cannot be narcissistic. Okay? So for those of you who've been wondering, am I dating, or those of you who've been labeling your spouse as narcissistic, please stop labeling people. And as I conclude, guys, I want to say this. We ought to come from this behavior of looking at our spouse as a problem. I've seen this is a very common tendency. You know, when people are even reaching out for sessions, they're coming, but they're pointing fingers at the person who is not in the session. Like, I'm here because, you know, this person is such a problematic person. And, you know, I've always been asking people, you're seeing their flaws. What are you doing about the relationship? Because if I was to bring that person here to tell me more about you, they would say very ugly things about you. We need to learn to see and to own our flaws. And when we are dealing with issues in our relationship, please start with yourself. Come in and say, I have come here. I want to share my experience and I want to see how fast I can help myself. Coming in with that God mentality, I am God and that person is a sinner, is the wrong approach to everything. Okay? And when you start changing, I want to say this, when you get to know about your flaws and you start changing, that change attracts change in the other person. Now, let me say this, the world gives you back what you give it. You bring out toxicity, you will get it back. And I tell this, anyone who has been into my sessions, this one I say very clearly. You must learn to give what you're ready to receive. Even the Bible says, give and it will come back to you. In full measure, pressed down. It's the same thing you give that will come back in full measure, pressed down, shaken together. So the first starting point of dealing with issues in your own relationship is finding out about yourself. And that is where we come in as therapists. Come in. Let me look at your personality traits. Let me look at your temperament. And I tell you, by the way, I feel this is your area of weakness. And this area of weakness might be interfering with how you're doing life with your spouse, how you're really, doing family life, how you're doing your friendship, how you're doing your career. I can be able to tell you that. And from there, we are able to now move progressively. There is no time you can say you have reached the peak of life. Every other day is a day to learn. I personally am very open to learning. I personally go for counseling sessions. Can you believe it? I have the knowledge, but I sit with someone who is more experienced to actually kind of like, show me how to do things in a better way. They also help me to detox my emotions. A lot of us are carrying 50, 100 kilos of toxicity. You had resentment, you had anger, all these things. For the 40 years, for the 50 years you have been living, you have never even had an avenue to detox. So when you're thinking of your heart and your brain, you're clogged up. Basically, this is what we call emotional constipation. So when you go through constipation, those of you who've ever been constipated, real constipation, you know how it is so hard to get that, I don't want to use the, out of your system. Yeah, you will look for pills, you can imagine, but the pain, the blotting that you go through is serious. Now, you don't want to get there when it comes to your emotions, because that is where you get into that space of chronic depression and stress, and it can throw you out. There are people who just, flip. All of a sudden, they were okay. What goes on in that mind? Too much toxicity, too much toxicity. Yes, Nyamongo, there's emotional constipation. The laxative is the therapist, okay? So, guys, let me just say this. For those of you who feel counseling doesn't work, I want to affirm to you that it does work. And don't look at the other person. Be the first person in the relationship to get the help, because everyone needs help. That's it and done. For those of you who are new to this channel, please subscribe so that you can get notifications. We are getting better by the day. Before we were doing Zoom, now we are doing this. And of course, as we continue by the day, we are going to get better. Abel, thank you so much for being in. Abel, I know you're in Nigeria, and thank you so much for even giving me suggestions as a journalist on how I can better myself. Dr. Nyamongo, thank you for joining in from the States. I'm really honored to see you around. And thank you so much for each one of you. I hope I was able to acknowledge each one of you who joined this session today. Once we are done, you can always come back to the channel and share this with your family member. Share it with someone who needs to get empowered, because that is all I'm all about. You know, we cannot be able to attend to everyone, but when we put this knowledge out there, you can be able to easily kind of like self-heal. Now, for those of you who need my number, I'll ask the MindSpa TV team to kindly put my number. If you need counseling, please come, let's talk. I know I have so many people on the queue, but those of you who are willing to wait, let me give you a thumbs up, because right now it takes 10 days. If you pay today, you have to wait 10 days. But yes, my sessions are very intense. Why? I love seeing results. If you come for my sessions and you're not really working on yourself, I think I give you back your refund, because what I want and what I'm passionate about is change. And even for myself, I have had to work, on myself, based on the feedback that I get from my husband, from my children. I have never been perfect. I will never be perfect. I have my flaws. But because I'm aware about them, every day becomes a new day to be a better person. So that's it and done. Let me wish you a blessed week. Hoping to engage you next week. I'm hoping that I'm going to be available. So in the meantime, if you have any suggestions, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, God bless you so much. Bye-bye.